welcome back to Getting to the Top, where we interview transformational leaders about their leadership journey in hopes that we can inspire you on your journey and that together we can learn something that we can apply in our daily lives. Today, I have the honor of introducing to you Anna Gissler. She is the CEO of Invest Stockholm. She's worked as a political secretary to the mayor and the vice mayor of Stockholm. She's been at Invest Stockholm since 2008. And Invest Stockholm, if you don't know, is the official investment promotion agency of Stockholm. And I think she'll tell us a little bit more about that and what they do and how they do it. And I was so intrigued by Anna's story when we met a few months ago, looking at the sort of distribution of gender balance in investment globally. And I said, I have to introduce you to this wonderful person. So welcome, Anna, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much, Raquel. I'm so much looking forward, and I hope I can add something of interest into this conversation. As you said, I've been in the city of Stockholm for many years because it's the biggest employer in Sweden. So it's a lot of different jobs that you can choose of. And I have had the opportunity to be working within the business segment and the inward investment segment for many years, actually, but it is such an interesting area. And I also got some different kind of issues and also in some way also enlarging the company. So it's been a journey, and it's been a fantastic journey.
So tell me, let's start at the end and work our way back. How did you end up at Invest Stockholm?
I have a degree in political science, so I actually ended up in the city hall, working in a political field to the mayor and the vice mayor, and the oppositional mayor also. So I worked together with a couple of mayors and politicians. And after a while, after a couple of years, I thought that this is so interesting, and I would like to work in the business field instead. But even still, being employed in the city of Stockholm. So I am on a fantastic place in a fantastic company. It's a small company with just about 20 persons that are employed here, but we have a kind of 5 consultancy also. So we are responsible for, as you said, the inward investment to the huger or the greater region of Stockholm. That's actually like a third of the population in Sweden. So it's about 4.5 million inhabitants, and it's 55 municipalities that work together with inward investments. So I've been in head of that company for a couple of years, or actually many years now, and we have tried to be coaching the municipalities to be on the inward investment side, because Sweden is a country of heritage or trade, and everybody knows what trade is, and a lot of the companies that IKEA, ABB, Ericsson, other companies, and nowadays also Klarna, Spotify, and others have been huge companies that have been globally kind of quickly, and also have a large market. So everybody knows about that. But the inward investment, the companies that establish here and the investors that invest in the Stockholm region is a little bit more tricky, and people don't really actually know about they know about the purpose and they know that they are here, but they don't really connect to their importance of the development of the economic figures in Sweden and in the Stockholm area.
Okay, and that's a huge responsibility, because it's sort of building the economic base of Stockholm and making sure that there are jobs and that, you know, the innovation and the vibrancy of Stockholm remains by the businesses that are investing in Stockholm and agreeing to come.
Absolutely. So we have both a local responsibilities. One department to work with the local business facilitation, trying to get the best startup ecosystem in the world. We're on the 3rd place so far, so we haven't hit the 1st place yet. So we're trying to make the best platform for all the companies and entrepreneurs and startups that are in Sweden, and especially in the Stockholm region, of course. But also, as you mentioned, we're trying to attract foreign talents, of course, but also investors and companies.
Okay. So how did you get started when you were a little girl growing up? What did you think you'd become? Did you think you'd become CEO of Invest Stockholm?
No, I didn't think that. I was first I've always been interested in politics and in society.
Okay.
So I've been like a little bit nerdy, watching all the news on the television and listen to all the
Right.
news on the radio when I was a kid. But after a while, I also thought that maybe law will be something that I will be interested in. So I started to study some couple of law courses, but I actually thought that was kind of dull. So I quit and started to study political science, economic, and some leadership, and
Okay.
a little bit of law also, but not as a degree.
And so then what was your first job out of school?
The first job after school was actually in the politics, and I actually studied on the university after that. So I actually quit the ground school or the college and started to work. And I had a couple of different works. I was a dealer in nightclubs in like Black Yak and like that for a while. I worked in shops, retail, restaurants and like that. So as most of us, I've started
Yeah.
in many ways before you get education, and also your first like more office job. But my first job after all those others job was in the political field actually. So I had responsible for a geographical field in Sweden for youth politicians and sectors within that. So, and after a couple of years, I moved to Stockholm because I grew up like 200 kilometers south of Stockholm, and it's kind of small city. So Stockholm is also a small capital, referring to the other capitals in Europe and in the world. It's just about 2 million inhabitants, and Sweden total is just 10 million inhabitants. So it's a lot of land, but kind of few inhabitants in the total.
That's interesting, and I'm sure a lot of people don't recognize that because it has such a huge impact globally. You wouldn't think that, it's 10 million inhabitants. So what did your parents think? What did your parents think you would become? Did they see this sort of political powerhouse, or were they encouraging you to consider, go for the law degree? What were your parents thinking about?
No, my parents, I think they saw that I was a politician for a couple of years actually, combining work but also be a politician on your free time. So I tried that for a while and was actually the youngest person in my old, not in Stockholm, but in the city that I grew up, who was in the count. So I was. In Sweden, you have a system, not in US and other areas, where you're picking people for every trial. You have like an ordinary organization where the politicians point out the people that should be in that trial, and that people comes and goes, like you're contracted for 4 years. So I was actually doing part of the law thing and the trial thing. Where I had my interest done, and so I was the youngest one in Linköping, where I come from, in the trials as a non-educated judge.
Oh wow!
I tried that, yeah. So I tried that also. So that's a kind of different system, yeah.
How did you like it?
I liked it, but I also realized that all the others that were sitting in the trial as non-educated judges were so old. And I needed to tell them how the society works, how it was in the nightclubs, how it was in the city in the nighttime, because they were so old. So it was so many years since they were actively out in the society, at least in the nights and the evenings.
Well,
so it was a nice education, and also kind of I realized that I won't go for law fully. I will do something else.
But it makes a good case for diversity, right? If you haven't seen what you're being asked to comment on or to adjudicate about, you just don't have that frame of reference, which is why it's so important to kind of have a great mix of people who are involved in any venture.
Absolutely, totally agree.
So
yeah.
then you
And that
went.
had also been my mission here in my
Oh,
job,
fabulous. Mhm.
to try to make a team out of 20 person that are at least has heritage from as many countries as possible, cope with as many different languages as possible, even though English is the common together with Swedish in our work. But so I have a combination of people who are under 30 to over 60 and manage very many different kind of languages, and also have they've been working abroad, they have parents coming from abroad and like that. So that has been one of my mission also.
That's great. And certainly I think it adds to the richness of the conversations that you would have and the experiences that people bring to the table as you look outward, because you're in investment promotion, you're looking to different jurisdictions at times to try and bring them in. And if you have no frame of reference as to where they're coming from and what they're culturally like and what the experiences are, it makes it really difficult. So that was quite smart of you. So what was one of the most important things that you've learned on this journey in Invest Stockholm?
I think that my mission and my kind of vision has been to make it possible for everyone in my organization to get as high up as possible in their tree to enjoy their best view. So in some way make them to find their full potential. And I also been actually for a couple of those who has quit, which is great. I've been here for a long time, but of course I have people who has quit and continue their journey. I've also been actually a reference in many cases, and I think that's great because people have different kinds of journeys, and if I can be a small part of their journey, I'll be so thankful, and that also gives meaning to me.
Oh, I love that. I've never heard that saying before, for everyone to get as high as possible in their tree so that they would have the best view. And that is sort of acknowledging that altogether we are on different journeys while we are together, because your paths converge and diverge, and so there are times when you'll be together and then times when you'll need to go off and continue on your journey as to where you're going. So if you want to help everyone get as high as possible in their tree, they can see, what's due to. Is that a Swedish saying, or is that something? Where's that from?
No, it's a combination of my own feelings and mission, but also I've heard kind of similar many years ago in a conference that I attended, and I think that was some of the in the management of Ericsson actually, who had kind of similar. And I thought that this is exactly what I'm trying to do, because I didn't find a word for it before that. But so I kind of stuck to that. And of course, you succeed sometimes, and sometimes it's much more harder. So, but my ambition is to try to help everyone with that.
And that's beautiful. And I love the fact that you've been like references for people who've left, because I think that's important. Sometimes I think the older way of thinking about it is that you come into a company and you have a job for life, but that's not, it's been decades since that's been the case. And so now it's just like, listen, let me help you on your journey. And when you leave, I still want us to have value in this relationship that we formed, because you never know where you end up. I mean, there have been people who worked for me that, then you turn around and you need their help with something. And so it's great to maintain those relationships over time, because they go on to somewhere that you want to do business with, or somewhere that you need information from. And so it's great to kind of make sure that everybody's on their journey. I feel like people in the past weren't necessarily very open about where they wanted to go, because they were afraid that would limit their prospects within the company. How have you found that? Is it that people are willing to say, listen, this is the tree I'm going for, or is it that you have to coax it out of them? What's that like?
I think it's a combination, but I think you're right. I think it changed during the years. And sometimes people say, oh, I hope you're not angering me because I'm looking for another job outside this organization. I said, no, absolutely not. I'm happy so long as I see that you are growing. And if you're not growing and developing in our organization at Invest Stockholm, you need to go somewhere else, of course. And could I be a part in being a reference or helping you? So I've actually been referenced for a couple of people, like not only one time, a couple of times actually. So and I think that gives back a kind of gratefulness that, okay, great if I can be a part of their journey. And that also gives some kind of good feeling back to me that I've been a part of in a small part of that journey, and that person actually succeeding in another organization continuing. So
yeah.
So
And
I think.
Go ahead.
No, please.
I was just about to say, I think it's really interesting because, I feel like now, and in global sort of business, it maybe I'm wrong, but I think that companies are placing greater importance on a 360-degree view of a leader. So not just what the people they report to think, but what do some of the people who report to them think. And so it may be that we're doing references that are more 360 in nature in the future, and it's good that you are maintaining those relationships to make sure that there's a good report from either side as well.
Yeah, and of course my focus is on the one who I work with, but can I add on with not that much time helping others, I will be so happy for that. So no, but focus is of course on making the ones who I have in my organization to grow and feel like they really love this. And the case in Stockholm, the city of Stockholm, is that you have a lot of opportunities because you are a part of the city, but we don't have that budget, of course, as some of the private actors have. So so the companies in one way might have higher salaries and more budget, but we are, as a city, have a strong and a huge potential to make things happen. And we have learned during the years that our biggest mission is actually to facilitate meetings between startups, entrepreneurs, innovations, companies, and like that. So that's mostly what we do.
Okay, excellent. Now, what's your favorite part of the job?
My favorite part is actually that I all the time is learning new things. And I'm fortunate to have 8, 9, 10 different sectors to all the time learning new things. So I am in a lifetime education in the same way, not only in the perspective that you are in head of our organization and all the H&R questions and like that, and personal development, but also that I all the time getting to learn new things. So that's probably the most important, actually. And that's also why I'm still on this job.
And so what's the last thing you learned?
The last or the less?
Yeah, something that you learned recently in this job.
I learned a lot during the pandemic. I got a third child during the pandemic, and that was kind of difficult. And I have 2 grown-up childs before. So I learned that the management through the digital screens is way different from the one that is physical, of course. But I like both of it, and I like the combination. So I'm trying now to make some meetings digital still, of course, but also trying to make the purpose and the time in the office as valuable as possible. And that's maybe the last thing I learned, actually. It needs so much more power and thinking of what to do in the office to attract and keep the staff also happy in their job than it was before the pandemic, actually.
So tell me a little bit about that. How have you found it different to manage digitally, with digital interaction versus face-to-face interaction? What's that been like? Because I think a lot of us are struggling with that.
Of course, you don't meet physical. It's easier to feel the energy in a room when you are having a meeting, and you also kind of you have more of the social part of the meeting that also gives you energy and heading together on the same direction. That's more difficult in digital meetings, I think. The digital meetings is great when you have a large area to cope people from. We have like 55 municipalities, so digital meetings to get together with them is great. We also have meetings in our counterparts in Europe, the IPA organizations. We have had meetings digital during the pandemic every month. That wouldn't have been possible meeting physical. We meet physical like once a year or twice a year maybe. So I think the creative meetings and the energy and the more co-creation and the one that you are heading forward and discussing new ideas, that is hard, or harder at least, to do digital. That's much more easier to do physical.
So you sort of pick the purpose of the meeting and the setting, and that's how you're sort of managing it.
Yeah.
We
actually done that in the whole. We're 3 small companies to work together, and we actually did it for all the 3 companies. So we have been looking at what is the purpose. Is it possible to have it digital? Is it the best way? Or so we have sectioned the meetings in different kind of meetings.
Okay, that's a really good guidance. I think for us it's a bit of a challenge because we're geographically dispersed, so most of the time a physical meeting isn't possible, and it's really a challenge because you just, like you're saying, you don't get that opportunity to connect really on that human level in this digital format. And it's good, and we've learned that there's so many more things that we can do digitally that we didn't sort of contemplate before. But it definitely isn't just a complete substitute for in-person meetings. And we now have to sort of figure out how do we create that ideal structure. And I like that idea of sort of looking at what's the purpose of the meeting and deciding how it needs to be held, and having a specific sort of intention around, is this the best format for this meeting type? Yeah, to hope to engage. So tell us about some of the other jobs that you've had. You worked for the mayor of Stockholm, you worked in a nightclub as a dealer.
Yeah, that was many years ago. I tried a politician, a judge.
What are some of the other jobs that you had?
I've been working I did McDonald's for a while.
Nice,
when I was studying. I've been selling bags, gloves in bigger department stores when I was studying also. But kind of early I went into politics actually, but more not only as a politician, more like a politician or a politics secretary, helping the politicians with writing articles and creating the politics in some way.
So how did you sort of get into that? Did you just you applied and you got accepted? It was just fairly straightforward and simple. Did you network? How did that come about?
I actually started as a 13 years old, thinking that something needed to be changed in the school. So I actually applied through a small paper, sending in to the party in Sweden that I was involved in, and asked, can I be a member? I would like to be active working with these issues. And then it all started. So, and that was in a youth organization.
Okay. So you started by putting yourself forward and being willing to do the work. So would you have started as a paid employee or as a volunteer?
I started as a volunteer.
Okay, wonderful. And that's a really good way, I think, sometimes that people don't think of as getting into a new sort of stream, is that volunteering, because people, when you form relationships and people see what your work is like, and that certainly can lead to being there and present when the opportunities show up.
Yeah, absolutely. No, but being a volunteer was really great, and I went in school then, so I was only 13 years old. So, but then kind of rapidly I got employed when I was 19 or 20 years old. So I stopped. I did the nightclub dealer work together with a politics secretary work for a while, but it was night and day, so it was kind of difficult. So I stopped the other way. I stopped the other job kind of rapidly after that. And then I've been a combination of working with politics and also being a politician. But I stopped being a politician for when I was 25 years, and I kind of double of that now. So so it's been I've been off the politics for many years, but of course the interest is always there. And we have a political board, of course, when we're a part of the city of Stockholm. So we just got a new mayor, which I worked with before, and because the majority changed in Stockholm. And also the majority on the national level changed. So it's a lot of changes in Sweden, and also out from the the war in Ukraine, and also the security issues, and Sweden and Finland are on our way into NATO as a defense organization. So it's a lot of security issues, and also debate about what should Sweden be, and how do we defend ourselves, and like that. So
and and so what are your thoughts about how you build your security, and how do you protect your people?
Sweden has been a neutral country for even since the Second World War. So this issue with being a part of NATO is totally new. But it ended up in this situation that has been created in the world during the 5 years, maybe the last 5 years, and especially the war in Ukraine, turn it off in a like a snowball effect, more or less. So Finland and Sweden are applying to NATO together, and haven't entered NATO yet. But of course, that affects also the inward investment work. We have to check more frequently the interest from different kind of companies. We have to check them through security that we didn't do before, maybe for many years ago. And I think that's the same for all the European countries. So it's been a kind of different kind of work, but also a good way to learn about security. And we are kind of strong in security techniques. So I have a lot of people who before Invest Stockholm has been working on Swedish embassies abroad, but also foreign embassies in Sweden. So they're used to high security, and also have a lot of knowledge about scanning companies and like that. So I'm feeling really safe in that case. But it has been a different kind of normal thing in our work, actually.
So just and in terms of the best advice you've gotten, what's the best advice you've ever gotten throughout your career?
I think I'm not sure if I got it or if I realized myself that I will give it to someone else. That is to don't lose yourself. It's so easy, I think, to lose yourself when you are going, as I did, for like 14 years, from not being a CEO, not having like the responsible for staff and employees, to all those figures, H&R questions, organization strategies, to don't lose yourself and your way of leading and your personality in that. I've tried hard to not do that. I am actually in the bottom more a team player. I can feel some ways that being a CEO is kind of lonely. But I've chosen it myself, of course, so I'm happy with what I'm doing, but it's kind of lonely, of course.
It's incredibly isolating, and I think a lot of people don't realize that. And I recommend it so much to people, but I also, with the caveat that it's a very lonely road. I think many of us, you make a lot of friends in your career, and then once you become the CEO, head of the organization, you're not necessarily in a position to make friends. And so you're either reporting to the board, or people are reporting to you, and you're just there on your own. And depending on the organization that you're leading, especially, I don't know what the distribution of sort of women in leadership is in Sweden, but you may be, one of very few. And if you're one of very few, you don't have that network to kind of that safe space to sort of bounce ideas off of.
Mm-hmm. I think you're right. We have a lot of female CEOs in Sweden, but still it's not 50-50, and it's more of the CEOs in the like the authorities, I think, not in the private companies, and especially not in the ones that are on the stock exchange. So we have an issue there. What I've been in one way implementing in my work in a way to try to also affect that development is that we started an initiative a couple of years ago called Stockholm, a woman's place. And it's a way to both attract talents, of course, and say that Stockholm is an open city. We want you not only as a woman, but also from wherever your heritage are, whatever like areas you are from, be able to succeed in Stockholm. So it's a combination of gender, of course, but also huge on that. It's more different kind of groups, and so we are doing that initiative together with a couple of companies. And when we started it, we have 100 companies who signed up for saying, yes, we also want to work for a woman's place. We want to be this. We want it to be as equal as it could, and not only when it comes to gender, but also other differences. So that's one way to work with it, and we've done that, and we will relaunch it just in a couple of months here, to try to a combination of working together with the companies in this issue, but also, of course, our responsibility is to marketing and packaging Stockholm international. So it's also a way to get interest from the rest of the world. But there is also something else that we are working with, and that's impact and sustainability. And that has also been a driver, and so important to both us personality, I think, to see that we are early adopters. We are in the forefront when it comes to sustainability. Also, a lot of the companies are working with that. So that's also been a huge thing to work with within the company also.
Okay. And I think impact and sustainability is so important. Obviously, that's the bulk of my work, and it's important that we get more diversity in impact and sustainability, because I think part of the problem of not having a sustainable planet or a sustainable way of doing things is that it hasn't been sufficiently inclusive in how we look at the decisions we make about how we do things. And so I think it's an opportunity to rethink everything and make it all better. But some of the things I love your sort of team player leadership style. I think that's good, and supporting the team, getting everybody to the highest point on their tree. Certainly looking at the diversity of the team to make sure that you have all of the decisions. Always learning. I think that's so important, and to keep it fresh and exciting, especially when you've been in a job as long as you have, and still be as enthusiastic as you are about it. But I love that.
I have don't tell anybody, but I have the best job in Stockholm, in the city of Stockholm. So that's the answer why I've been here for so long also.
Wonderful. I think the best advice was don't lose yourself. I think it's so easy to sort of get away from who you really are, or to be following the advice and not necessarily following your gut instinct. I think it's such a fine balance between learning what you need to understand about the landscape, but knowing who you are inside and expressing that through your work.
Yeah, I think that's crucial. And I also think that, of course, when you have been the CEO and you have gone into different kind of parts, and some of the decisions aren't that nice, you need to cut staff, maybe you need to cut the budget, you need to make some harsh decisions sometimes. And of course, after a couple of years, the risk is that you're getting much more harder, or like more used to those kind of hard decisions. So I always try to keep that caring thought, which I think is a part of my personality, and also the team view. I want to be a part of the team, even though I absolutely understand I'm not a team of the a part of the team in all ways. As you said, it's of course I understand that the ones I work with are my colleagues, and not my friends maybe in that way, even though I like them all.
Very much. Yeah. And I think, forming those relationships and maintaining those relationships, I think it's an excellent piece for us to remember as well. And then finally putting yourself forward, being willing to say, you know what, I'm maybe 13, but I want to join this. I want to join this organization, and I want to learn, and I want to give, and I want to create a path, because look at where it's led to. I think that's absolutely phenomenal. Thank you so much, Anna. I have learned so much from you today. And I think the most important piece is something probably that I needed to hear today is not to lose yourself. Because I think sometimes you kind of get so focused on the goal and the objective and the work that you forget that you are the one doing it, and you have to bring you to that, and that you are the only you. So whatever you bring to that is unique and absolutely precious.
Absolutely. Right, well, thank you for having me.
I hope the rest of you enjoyed this conversation as much as I did, and that you learned something and you were able to take something away that you can then apply to your own journey, as I have. I really appreciate the time that you spend with me, and I hope that you like and subscribe and share this podcast with your friends and colleagues. And looking forward to seeing you next time. Thanks so much. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.